Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This is from JK Alzaibar. Hi, John and team. Big fan of the show. I love the Oscars. It's almost like a holiday for me, and I'm really excited for this year's ceremony. But I have a question. How do the Oscars work exactly? How's a movie get nominated, and ultimately, who decides which movie wins in each category? I'm very curious about the whole process of the Academy, and I'd really appreciate it if you could do a Campea classroom.
All right. Thanks a lot for saying that in, JK. And yeah, any question about the Oscars? I love the Oscars. And of course, the nominations just got announced yesterday. But it's true, as many people, I mean, the Oscars is still the number one watched televised event that isn't a sporting event every year. As much as everybody watches the Oscars, it's still a little bit of secret sauce. And you know, for Sony, maybe that'd be spunk, but it's secret sauce. And people don't really know how the inner workings actually happen. Who decides what gets nominated? How, like, out of 500 eligible actors, who decides who gets the 5? Who decides who wins Best Picture? Well, yeah, but honestly, there is an intricate mechanism behind the scenes. No, I think, what's it called? The preferential ballot, I think is the name of the system. The preferential ballot, I think that's what it's called. The preferred system. Now, a couple of years ago, when I was back at the other place, known as Collider, one of my favorite things that we produced at Collider was something we called the Crash Course. And we produced many episodes of Crash Course, and it was a big team of people. We had our writers and our researchers and our visual guys and our editors and our hosts and stuff like that. And I thought the stuff that we were able to make with Crash Course was fantastic. One of the Crash Courses we did that was hosted by the extremely talented Ken Knapsack was we did a Crash Course on how the Oscars work. So I thought we would go back and take a look at this video a little bit, and we'll pause it through and give some commentary so we understand what's going on. But if you want to know how all this stuff works, let's take a look at here. So let's look at a couple of minutes of this video, shall we? Okay, let's run this.
The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences is made up of around 7,000 filmmakers and film professionals. The organization itself
I forgot to unmute my microphone. Sorry about that. It should be noted that back when we made this, there was under 7,000 voting members of the Academy. All right. It's still a lot because, you know, Golden Globes only had like 68 members. The Oscars had like 6,800. That number has now massively ballooned, like almost adding 50% more voters. It's like well over 9,000 voters now. So when we made this, it was just under 7,000. That's why he was saying about 7,000 voters. Okay, let's go back to this.
Itself is divided up into 17 specific branches. There's a branch for actors, a branch for directors, one for editors, so on and so forth. I'm sure the lighting guys get one too. Nominees for each category are selected by votes from members of these specific branches. For example, only actors get to select the nominees for the acting categories, and only directors get to select the nominees for the best director category.
Okay, so this is something we've tried to point out a lot over the years about the various categories, is that you got to understand that the people who come up with the nominees are actually the people in that field. Screenwriters will nominate the people who get the nominations for screenwriting. Actors in the Academy put forward who is going to be nominated in the acting category. Directors put forward who's going to be. So you get all these 9,000 whatever members of the Academy, but they don't come up with the individual nominees. Yes.
There's actually a step before that, which is that the productions themselves actually put forward who they want to be considered.
Yes.
So for example, I'm going to use a movie that I really loved, Army of the Dead. Now, when Dave Bautista went to do Army of the Dead, he probably wasn't thinking this is going to be my Academy Award-winning role. However, the producers of the movie did say, if you go onto the Oscars website, it will say like, hey, these are the actors that we would like you to consider nominating. So there's actually a list that the people on the nominating committee choose from. It's not like they have to be aware of every single actor in every single thing. There is a guidebook even for the nominating process.
Right. So, but once we get to that stage, though, that these are all who's eligible, this is now all who's in the running, they then breaks down into the individual branch of the Academy to look after that. The designers, the music category, all that kind of stuff. And so they're the ones who actually look after who gets the nominations. Okay, so that's important to understand. So you can't blame an actor if your favorite visual effects movie didn't get a visual effects nomination. That's the visual effects professionals who put forward the nominations and gave us. So, but how do they get there? Well, let's get into this.
In other words, you only have fellow directors to blame for that Ben Affleck snub.
And not get nominated for the Academy Award. Because again, it's the directors in the Academy who put forward the nominations. Guess what? Those directors are members of the DGA. And the DGA just named him Best Director of the Year. I will never understand how Ben Affleck did not get nominated that year. But anyway, let's keep going forward here.
Not the Academy at large. For almost every category, a voting member submits a list of no more than 5 nominees for his or her individual ballot. However, Best Picture is different because it's Best Picture. With that one, everyone gets to vote. Each voting member must submit a list of between 5 and 10 nominees. That's a lot of homework. So now, how exactly do we turn all these ballots into nominations?
Okay, this is where we start to get into the meat of it. So now we know that the potential people who can be nominated has been brought in. It gets segregated out down to their individual branches, and the branches now deal with it. Now, once it gets to that point, how do you end up with 5 nominees? It's a little complicated, but they do a really good job here. Just listen to Ken and how he breaks this down. This is really interesting.
Well, it involves math, so get ready for this. When submitting a list of preferred nominees, Academy members rank them according to preference. The nomination ballots are initially sorted based on the voter's first place ranking. Got it? So if a potential nominee scores enough first place votes, sometimes called the magic number, it becomes an official nominee and you win the National League West. This magic number is reached by taking the total number of ballots received per category and dividing it by the total number of possible nominees plus 1. Told you there's math. If a selection receives this magic number of votes or more, it becomes a nominee. For example, say the magic number is 333 and Leonardo DiCaprio wins 337 Best Actor #1 votes for having sex with a bear. In this case, he automatically becomes a nominee.
Okay, so now we see that all the members of that branch get their ballots, they fill out their votes, and they rank them, right? And then if you get enough first place votes, and you cross that threshold, again, the math is determined by the number of votes versus the number of potential nominees, all that kind of stuff. So they come up with the magic number. In the example here, it's 333. So once Leonardo DiCaprio or any actor hits that magic number, that becomes a nominee. Now they break it down a little bit further here. Let's keep going here.
But now, what happens to everyone's second, third, fourth, and fifth place choices? After the first pass, the accountants, nope, not that accountant, real PricewaterhouseCoopers accountants sort through the remaining ballots, tough job, and remove the stack with the fewest votes. Let's use Adam Sandler as an example. No, really, let's use Adam Sandler as an example. Say Adam Sandler's performance in Grown Ups 2 received the fewest first place votes, 2, and that would be the case. That means he didn't hit the magic number, and those ballots are redistributed according to their second place choices.
This is where it gets really kind of key too, because now it's like, what do you do with ballots? Like if you don't vote for the right first place vote, does your ballot just get thrown away? No, their ballots don't get thrown away. So in this example, if you were a member of the acting branch and you were putting out your ballot about who you should think should get a nomination, if you put at your #1 spot somebody that nobody else votes for, well, your ballot still counts. And they're about to explain here how and why it does.
So say one of those ballots has Forrest Whitaker at #2 and the other one is Ryan Gosling at #2. Tough choices. This means the Forrest Whitaker pile gets another ballot and the Ryan Gosling pile gets another ballot. If either of those actors hit the magic number after this process, great, they get a nomination. Now let's say Tyler Perry has the second smallest pile with just 3 #1 votes. A travesty, really. Those ballots are then reassessed according to their #2 pick. Daniel Day-Lewis is #2 on one, so there's another ballot for his pile. Matt Damon is #2 on another one, so he gets one as well. But what happens if Adam Sandler is #2 on the third? It could happen. He's already been eliminated, so then we move on to the #3 spot on that ballot. Eddie Redmayne! Congratulations, Eddie! Now Eddie Redmayne's pile gets another ballot.
Okay, so if your ballot had one of the lowest ranking people like Adam Sandler, well, then the next person down on your list, they get your number one vote. And that goes to them, in this case, like Eddie Redmayne or one of the other people. So now that number goes up, and these charts continue to go up until you get 5 people hit that magic number, which he's about to get to here.
The ballots continue to be redistributed in this manner until we have our 5 nominees. Still with me? Good. Once all the ballots have been tabulated and the nominees are named, new ballots are sent out to every Academy member. After the nominees have been chosen by that category's experts, everyone gets to vote on every category.
That's the key thing. Once the nominees are determined, once they get 5 nominees hit the magic number and you've got your 5 nominees, then voting on the winners becomes a matter for the whole Academy. So not the whole Academy determines who gets nominated, but once the individual branches put forward their 5 nominees, then the whole Academy takes those 5 nominees and then votes on the nominees, and that's how they come up with the winner. Again, it's a little tricky. It involves math. It's got that thing called the preferential ballot, but we've got a couple of SAG members here. So I'm actually very curious to see now, seeing how the Academy does it. You guys are involved in voting for winners of the SAG, I think the second most prestigious thing beside the Oscars, particularly when it comes to acting. How does that process work? Is that a similar process to the way I honestly don't know how SAG does it. So how's the process differ from the way the Academy does it here?
Well, Chris is actually on the SAG nominating committee this year. I was
I
years
totally
ago,
forgot about that.
But
That's
I've forgotten
right.
how it all works. So she would be a great person to ask as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I was going to say we've both done it, so it's very exciting. But at random, basically, the union selects several different actors who will commit to saying that they'll watch all these films, go to screenings, and vote. The big thing is just committing to vote on time.
To do the nomination.
Yes. And so basically, SAG is lovely and kind of wines and dines us. We have lots of opportunities to go to different screening events and everything, see all these films, hear from the actors, get screeners sent to us very, very early, and a lot more screeners than what we usually would see, just like Aaron pointed out earlier. Anyone who thinks their actor should be considered, basically, is pushing that movie forward to us. That's why I got things like The King's Man, which, you know, maybe wouldn't be your usual, like, awards fodder. And still wasn't. Sorry, guys. But so basically then from there, we have a ballot that we can select with a huge list of all these different actors that different studios are telling us we could nominate. We go through, we vote, and we can only select a certain amount. I believe it was 10 per category that we can select as nominees. And then once that is all in, then SAG contacts the rest of us saying, hey, these are your SAG nominees for the year. We'll send you your screeners, which they're now doing digitally so we can lower our carbon footprint. Yay, union. And then we all vote on it. And then we see that, you know, at the
And
SAG
with
Awards.
each of those screeners, there's always an additional piece of paper that's like, for your I mean, I don't know how this works. Probably not in other cities, but in Los Angeles and probably New York, there are for your consideration billboards everywhere during Oscar season. And it's just like this movie that came out 7 months ago for your consideration. And they do that as advertising and reminders. And with all of the screeners, they actually include when they are sending out the physical copies, they'll send out a piece of paper that says, for your consideration, these are the people whose performances we want you, like, don't pay attention to Erin Cummings as the social worker. She's not up for nomination. Pay attention to Ingenue Ellis and Will Smith. They're the ones we want you to take a look at. So they will focus your attention into the people that they want you to be looking for.
So, Rob, I mean, look, when you look at this thing, you can think there's a lot of math. It seems a little convoluted, but personally for me, when you go through it, I go, at the end of it, I go, you know what? That's actually a pretty good system. I like, because it also prevents a lot of people from trying to sway how it goes, like the way it goes with the preferential ballot system. So I personally like it, even though it's a little bit convoluted. What do you think about the Oscar system there?
Well, I think it's pretty good, but make no mistake, there's campaigning going on
For sure,
months.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there are publicists, there are events, there are screenings. I mean, how many Dune screenings with Denis Villeneuve and the cast and the below the line people were at the Warner Brothers Steve Ross Theater?
Exactly.
I went to one. Thank you, Michelle. There was lots going on, and it happens for months because obviously an Oscar win means a lot for the studio. It means a lot for the actor. It means a lot for production companies. It means a lot for agencies. There's a lot of clout that goes into winning that Oscar. And I think that there's a lot of, you know, Harvey Weinstein. Read about how he gamed the system.
Yeah, but I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all because I know you. It doesn't matter if you got a swag bag, and it wouldn't matter if you got to go see a certain screening with the director of the thing. That wouldn't influence how you actually voted at all. I know I've been like, listen, I got flown out to this fancy thing. I got to go to the world premiere of The Rise of Skywalker. I got to meet the cast, blah, blah, and I still walked out of that thing. I said, that movie was shit. So I don't buy this excuse that this campaigning has a massive influence on people, because I know it wouldn't influence you, and I know it doesn't influence me. So maybe some people it does, but I just don't buy it.
It's also an awareness factor. There's a lot of people that
I totally agree with you on that.
And you because not everybody can see everything, and you go to an event, and it's like when people go to premieres, their opinion of a movie can be, perhaps not as considered as it would be if they weren't at a premiere seeing it for the first time. So there is a lot of glad handing. There's a lot of actors meeting people personally. So there is, it's like a political campaign as well. It can be. And if you look at it, if you look at the people that actually win or the people that are nominated, there still is a little bit of it's not like you don't see a lot of dark horse candidates that come from the indie world that suddenly sweep the Oscars by storm. That happens, but not as much as you would hope it would.
I think that's probably bigger on the best picture category, because there are certain people like, Chris Cooper is not an actor who's going to go out there and campaign. Frances McDormand could not. I mean, anytime the camera goes to her, she's like, get that thing out of my face. I mean, she is not campaigning at all. So on the individual level, I don't think that's true, but definitely I can see on the best picture category, that is definitely more of an issue. And thank God that we have PricewaterhouseCooper, who does all the accounting
on that.
because that's some complicated math stuff.
Yeah, I don't think you could buy an award. I don't mean to say that. I think that.
I mean, you can buy a Golden Globe.
Yes, you totally could buy a Golden Globe. Yes,
but
I can't buy an Oscar.
There still is. I mean, you see front runners, and I've never seen an Oscar campaign where there might be winners. Like you and I both love Shakespeare in Love.
Yeah,
I honestly believe Shakespeare in Love absolutely deserved to win that Oscar. That movie is a wildly entertaining movie, and yes, it was up against Saving Private Ryan. Very different kinds of films in terms of tone. But I would say that it's just as hard to make a movie like Shakespeare in Love as it is to make a movie like Saving Private Ryan.
See, that's the thing, because I agree with you about the awareness factor, about trying to make sure this is always front and center in front of the voters' faces. But the perception, here's what happens. We as individual people, we love to make excuses when things happen that we don't want to have happen. My favorite movie didn't get nominated? Well, that's because that other film bought it. No, I mean, you can be 5 years old and believe in Santa Claus like that if you want, but that's not what happened.
You can be 50 and believe in Santa Claus too.
Sorry, I shouldn't take that away from you. But I mean, you can be naive and believe that if you want, but that's not what happened. Because if that were the case, guess what? Like, I saw The Lost Daughter. And this isn't going to be like an Oscar thing, but wow, it was great and all that kind of stuff. The Lost Daughter did not have 50 cents to put into an Oscar campaign. And it got some of the biggest nominations, right? Now, a lot of people like me who don't really love Don't Look Up. And again, I wouldn't have voted for Don't Look Up. I didn't think it was that. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't think it was that good. But instead of trying to come up with some clandestine conspiracy theory about how maybe I just accept that there are other people who watched it who did really like it that much, even though I didn't. And that's probably the case. So, I mean, I don't know. It's a difficult thing, but I think this process, unlike the Golden Globes, which you were pointing out so accurately, when you only have 68 voting members, all you got to do is take 12 of them to lunch in France, and all of a sudden you just swayed 25% of the vote of the things. You have nearly 10,000 members of the voting academy with a preferential ballot system that, again, is not perfect, but I think it insulates it a little bit.
And also members who are voting who do what you do.
Exactly.
Yes.
Unlike the Golden Globes, where it's not people who are professionals in that. Like, I don't know anything about lighting design. I don't know anything about sound editing. So I shouldn't be nominating in those categories. I mean, hell, I shouldn't even be voting in those categories, which is probably why I'm not part of the Academy. But, I mean, there's also an element of how do I say this? Well, okay, the guy who created the polio vaccine, when it all came out, he didn't give credit to any of the people who he was working with, any of the people in his lab, took sole credit for it, even though it wasn't a singular thing. And so when the Nobel Prize for Medicine came up, he was snubbed. Why was he snubbed? Because people didn't fucking like him. And so there's a certain degree of like, if I'm going to be nominating certain actors, as an actor, if I know that like this person was a total perv asshole on set, and I mean, there's a reason why a certain person a few years ago in the wake of the Me Too movement won the Golden Globe and was totally snubbed for the Oscar.
There's still a human element to it.
There is a human element.
Yeah, there's absolutely still a human element to it. Yeah.
Wow, you know what? I don't care how good your performance was. I've worked with you, and you don't deserve a standing
Well, we're
ovation.
seeing that in the sports world too. We're seeing people in various Hall of Fames not getting into the Hall of Fames.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's a part. So there's obviously, just like the film itself as an art, there's absolutely a human element to it. Again, that's why, unlike the Golden Globes that has 68 members, having a body that's like 10,000 members helps that situation a bit, but it's still a human element. Anyway, guys, question is for you. I've had a lot of people writing in the last couple of days asking, how exactly do the Oscar nominations work? I hope, even though it is kind of complex, I hope that made it a little bit more clear for you. What do you guys think about all that? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.